Welcome to my channel. This is Paul Minen. Make yourselves comfortable. Light a cigarette or pour yourself something stronger. Today we're going to talk about how a former friend and my ex-boyfriend's former best friend betrayed us both, and now my ex-boyfriend blames me for everything, even though I'm completely remorseful and have tried everything to make it up to him. Listen carefully. Chapter 1. Portrait of a Martyr with a Pistol and the Ghost of a Friendship. If you believe that love is a field strewn with daisies, then allow me to introduce you to my personal minefield, which, with the persistence of a failed sapper, I called a relationship for 2 years. My ex, let's call him Max, wasn't just a man. He was a walking collection of tragedies for aspiring writers. Imagine Lord Byron, but instead of writing poems, he wrote drunken texts, suffered from unemployment, and kept not a volume of sonnets under his pillow, but a very real pistol. Our relationship was like fireworks in a powder keg, bright, loud, and with an inevitable destructive end. We were soulmates, as people say when the toxicity is so off the charts, it begins to feel like a cosmic connection. We broke up in September, solemnly, like two generals signing a truce, knowing the war was not over. And indeed, 3 weeks later, the trenches were forgotten, and we once again plunged into our cozy guerrilla war of secret meetings, passionate nights, and vows that things would be different. In my naivety, I decided to devote this time to self-improvement, yoga, psychology books, quitting bad habits. I was turning myself into an upgraded version for him, while he was perfecting something else, the art of mixing antidepressants with whiskey and flirting with every skirt within a kilometer radius to distract himself. I loved him, this lost poet with suicidal tendencies, and I believed that my love would be his lifeline.
And between us, like a bridge over an abyss, stood Stas. He was his best friend and our mutual comrade. Stas was the embodiment of reliability, kind, polite, with a face that promised no trouble. He was the kind of friend you could trust with your apartment keys, your cat, and even your deepest secrets. In the 3 years we had known him, he had never once allowed himself a single sideways glance, not one ambiguous hint. He was the background, the scenery, a reliable Swiss bank in the world of our emotional roller coaster. We both trusted him unconditionally. He was a safe harbor, and we didn't notice that still waters run deep, and that this particular harbor had a devil with far-reaching plans lurking within. And then my birthday arrived. On this day when the universe was supposed to shower me with gifts, it decided to teach me a lesson wrapped in the sticky foil of betrayal. Stas, who had just broken up with his tyrant girlfriend for the 8th time, suggested we meet for a drink. You need to vent, I thought, putting on my Good Samaritan mask. I could never have imagined that I wasn't going to comfort a friend, but straight to the scaffold where the last remnants of my faith in people were to be executed. Chapter 2. The Dance of Judas to the Accompaniment of Tequila. We met at a beach bar, where the setting sun painted the sea the color of a cheap cocktail. The atmosphere was conducive to light melancholy, but certainly not to drama. Stas looked surprisingly cheerful for someone who had just broken up with his tyrant girlfriend for the 8th time. "I've had enough. It's over with her for good," he announced cheerfully. And I, knowing his history, mentally bet that for good would last a week at most. The conversation flowed easily and casually. Music, concerts, mutual acquaintances. And then, Stas decided that the best birthday present was alcohol poisoning. "This is instead of a gift," he said, ordering the 4th shot. I had never seen him like this. His usual restraint had evaporated, replaced by a kind of feverish talkativeness. And then, between toasts to my health, the show began. He started feeding me information about Max, coated in a sauce of brotherly concern. It turned out that my suffering, faithful to me as I thought, Max, had his eye on a new bartender. Not just his eye on her, but he had already claimed her, calling her his future wife among his friends. Something inside me snapped. Just a week ago, we had returned from New York, where I had paid for the hotel and concert tickets for this very birthday. We had sworn to each other that we would immediately end things if someone else came into the picture. And now it turns out my Romeo was already rehearsing a new play while his Juliet was paying for the sets.
My ears were ringing. Stas continued his monologue, unloading all the secrets Max had entrusted to him as his best friend. I tried to change the subject, muttering something like, "I don't know anything about that," but he was unstoppable. Then his hand tried to find my waist several times. I got up 3 times to go to the bathroom, just to break the uncomfortable proximity. He suggested a game of cornhole, and even there, while tossing beanbags, he managed to close the distance. After that, with a devilish glint in his eyes, he suggested we go to the very bar where Max's future wife worked. I don't remember how we got there. I only remember blurry lights and his voice still talking. The next stop was his friend's house to watch a UFC fight. A thought flickered in my drunk mind. I'll be safe around people. What irony. There he kept pouring me drinks, and I just took sips, trying to hold on to what was left of my sanity. And then in the middle of the fight on the screen, he started his own. He grabbed my face and kissed me. The world froze. I threw my head back, feeling a mixture of shock, disgust, and complete numbness. I was in a stranger's house, drunk, and the man I considered a friend had just erased the line between friendship and betrayal. When the fight ended, I tried to escape, but he caught me at my car, pressing his lips to mine again. "Stop, not at my car," I blurted out. He took it as an invitation and dragged me to his. There, in the darkness of his car, he unloaded a confession he had held for years. He had been in love with me even before we met, after seeing my photo on Max's phone. He didn't care about my feelings for my ex. "I'll tell him everything," I hissed. "It's worth it," he smirked. In that moment, I understood that the friend was dead. Judas was born. Chapter 3. Great Deeds in the Name of Atonement, or Cleaning the Garage with Black Widows. After escaping from his car, humiliated and crushed, I did what any woman in a state of emotional distress and alcohol intoxication does. I called the epicenter of my problems. It was 3 in the morning, but I didn't care. Sobbing into the phone, I drove to Max's, guided by a self-preservation instinct that, as it turned out, was broken. A brilliant plan formed in my drunk mind. To protect his fragile soul and not provoke a date with his pistol, I would tell him everything, except the kiss. I presented him with the story of his best friend's betrayal, of the dirty hints and harassment, casting myself as the victim and him as the deceived king. He was devastated. We even made love in the early morning, an act that I thought was supposed to glue the cracks in our fragile world. The next day, Stas sent a message asking if he had done something to upset me. My reply was short and scathing. His reaction was a masterpiece. He apparently thought I wanted it too, since Max was just using me for sex. After our angry exchange, in which I told him off in every way imaginable and blocked him, I immediately called Max to recount the conversation. He, in turn, texted Stas. And then the snake struck back. Stas told him everything, including the kiss, painting me as a deceitful seductress. Max immediately asked me point blank, and realizing the game was lost, I confessed immediately. His world collapsed, and mine along with it. "Hope it was worth it," he said and hung up. 'Hope it was worth it,' he said and hung up.
The same words Stas had said. The perfect script of betrayal. Hell began. A month of nonstop drunken calls, texts full of curses and accusations. He called me every name in the book. I cried, begged him to listen, but he was deaf. I became a shadow, obsessed with atoning for a guilt I didn't fully feel was mine. And so began my crusade for forgiveness, which in its absurdity could have been a plot for a Coen Brothers comedy. I left flowers at his door, and in return received a photo of them in the trash can. I bought him a front-row ticket to his favorite band's concert. I brought him groceries because he couldn't eat from grief. I spent 4 hours cleaning his car, which looked more like a mobile landfill. The pinnacle was a 2-day marathon of cleaning his garage. Choking on dust and fighting off a bout of mononucleosis I had managed to contract in the midst of all this, I sorted through a decade's worth of junk and even found a nest of black widow spiders. I risked my life battling spiders and infection to prove my love. He admitted that it helped a lot, but I still hadn't earned forgiveness. Chapter 4. The Last Argument of Kings, or the Fiasco in the Ocean View Room. When all reasonable and not so reasonable ways to atone for my sin had been exhausted, a plan was born in my mind, inflamed by sickness, desperation, and sleepless nights. A plan so insane, so far outside the box, that it could be considered brilliant. I decided that since verbal proof of my loyalty wasn't working, it was time to move on to physical proof. I decided to arrange a threesome for him with my best friend. The logic was as solid as the rail my sanity was hurtling down. He feels betrayed over a single kiss. I will give him an entire evening where he is the center of attention for 2 women. This was to be the ultimate act of self-sacrifice, a demonstration that his happiness was more important to me than my own pride and jealousy. My friend, a pragmatic girl who worked on OnlyFans, agreed to help for a modest fee of $1,300. Business is business. I booked a luxurious ocean view room. That weekend, Max was surprisingly sweet. He smiled, hugged me, and for a moment, I thought things were getting better. The evening started perfectly. Champagne, laughter, anticipation. Then my friend arrived. And that's when Max and I, succumbing to nerves, it was my first time, drank a little more than we should have. Much more. Then, a blackout. I only remember fragments, flashes of light, laughter, music. Several hours of that night are simply erased from my memory. Apparently from his too. In the morning we woke up, packed in silence, and left. Everything seemed normal. 2 weeks later, I learned the truth. My friend told me that during the hours I don't remember, Max behaved abominably. Not only did he make derogatory comments about me, but he was also rude and disrespectful to her. She described him in vivid detail as a drunken, sloppy asshole, and swore that if she ever saw him again, she would deal with him on the spot. I was horrified. I had almost lost my best friend over a man who was completely unworthy. My grand gesture of redemption had turned into an even greater humiliation. Even after this fiasco, Max's verdict remained unchanged. We will never be together again. Move on. He admitted that my titanic efforts helped, but the scales never tipped in my favor. And so here I am, with a broken heart, an empty wallet, ruined health, and memories of cleaning a spider's nest. You ask for advice on how to fix things or how to get out of this. Darling, you are trying to glue together a vase that was not just broken, but stomped on, mixed with dirt, and thrown down a garbage chute.
This man is a black hole that consumes your energy, your money, your self-respect, and even your friends. He blames you because it's easier than looking in the mirror and seeing an unemployed alcoholic with a pistol under his pillow. Oh yes, the cherry on this rotten cake. Stas, that very Judas, got back together with his abusive ex-girlfriend 3 days after our night. They always go back. All these men are actors in a poorly staged play, and they just switch roles, but the essence remains the same. Your only way out, my dear, is to stand up, dust yourself off, burn the script of this play, and leave the theater. Your curtain call. If you like the story, subscribe to the channel, and you'll hear even more exciting stories.